Hey Bill, so I wanted to shoot this video to kind of show you how things were going to work with your training because it's kind of complex. There's probably a lot of new tools and things that you probably don't understand and have never seen before. So I just thought it'd be a lot easier to actually shoot this video rather than try to type it all up in an email and make it super long, which is already going to be long enough as it is. But just it seems to be so much easier and it clicks so much better if I do things this way. So I'm going to explain things. If anything doesn't make sense, if you have any questions, please just shoot me an email and I'll kind of clarify it. But I'll just kind of jump into things. As we kind of talked about a little while ago when you were kind of when you were kind of asking about services, I do want to do 2 upper and 2 lower days, 1 heavier and 1 lighter day. And what we're going to do is you're actually going to choose all your own movements. I think this works really well for not only enjoyment, but sustainability and adherence to the plan. You know, if you can do things that you want to do, it just makes it more fun. There are no magic exercises out there, you know. Sure, some movements work more muscles than others, and like for instance, like the back squats that you're a little worried about and deadlifts, you know, they work a lot of muscles and are great movements, but nothing is 100% required. Okay, so this way you can choose things, you can make the plan kind of how you would enjoy it, and we can kind of go from there. Now, that will just be for 6 weeks. We basically do all of our training will be done in 6-week blocks. You'll have an intro week, which is kind of backed off percentages, and then 4 weeks of training, and then a testing week at the end. So you'll kind of see here, you have your intro week, week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is testing, which is actually just 6 weeks. So what you will do is you will pick a movement that will be considered your main movement for each of the main muscle groups: chest, back, shoulder, quads, hamstrings. And what we will do with those movements is you will do some testing here this week, and that will kind of give me the information that I need to plan out your numbers for those movements. So that actually will work really well, because one of the things you said in your questionnaires was that you like to just kind of to be told exactly what to do, and that's what this will be like for your main movements. The other ones will be a little bit different. But so whatever you want to get stronger at and want to focus on, make sure you choose those main movements. So you'll see here, this is where you're going to pick from. So for chest, there's a little drop down here. You can pick any of these movements. So let's just say, for instance, you want to do flat barbell bench press. And for back, you want to do bent over rows, shoulder, seated dumbbell shoulder press. This is just random. You can pick whatever you want. And then back squats and deadlifts, we'll say. All right. So as you'll see, it'll change down here automatically, and it'll change all the way across for your entire training program. We want to make sure whatever movements we pick this week are movements that you want to do for the next 6 weeks, because it's very important that we keep things the same during that 6-week block as much as possible, just because your body kind of makes changes based on adaptation. And a lot of people think adaptation is a bad thing. It's actually a very good thing, because your body changes through adaptation. So what we do is we give the body a stimulus, we force adaptation, we recover from that training to kind of actualize the progress from that stimulus, then you give it a new stimulus. So for these 6 weeks, you'll do it all the same, and then when we do the next block, you'll be able to change up some exercises and stuff if you want. If you want to keep them the same, you can. You know, it's kind of totally up to you, but we will kind of address that stuff as we move forward. But for this week, just whatever you choose, just make sure it's something you want to do for the next 6 weeks. So, So, on your first day of training, I got kind of day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 here. I kind of got it broken up a little bit, but it doesn't matter what days the work gets done. It just matters that it all gets done. So I know you were kind of looking at Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I believe Friday, which is totally fine. That works fine if you want to do that, but you can split it up however you want. If you want to, you know, make it up later in the week, if things get a little hectic, that's totally fine. It doesn't matter to me. You're just not going to want to do your 2 upper days in a row, so to speak, or your 2 lower days in a row. So, as I was beginning to talk about, but kind of went on a tangent there, when you do your first day of training, you are going to do some testing to give me some numbers. So you're going to work up to a 5-rep max on the main movements for that day. So for this upper day, you've got your chest, back, and your shoulder main movements. So what you'll do, so say for instance you're going to do flat barbell bench press, you're going to work up to a weight that you can do 5 times and no more. That would be your 5-rep max. Now, it doesn't need to be exact. You can be a little bit conservative with that number, but I want you to work up to roughly a 5-rep max. So you'll get warmed up, and you'll just kind of work up and wait until you reach roughly a 5-rep max. Once you get that, you'll come in here and you'll plug that number in. So let's just say, for instance, you could do, 180 pounds for 5 reps. You'll type that in there. Boom. Now you've got your percentages and your numbers to do for the not only the rest of this week, but all the weeks moving forward. Now, the weeks moving forward could change depending on how the previous weeks went, but I do map it out. It's all based on percentages, but let's say, for instance, you're going week to week and things are just going really well and really easy. I might bump it up, or if you're struggling, we might knock it down a little bit. But for the most part, it's going to be fairly accurately mapped out, hopefully. Now, for this first day, after you do your 5 rep max, you will then do 2 more back off sets of 5 at whatever weight is shown here. Now, you can download an app on the Excel app, and you can actually plug that onto your phone. You can plug the numbers in, and it'll do it on the fly, so you don't have to do any math. However, if you don't do that, don't want to do that, you can do the percentages. You'll just have to remember it. So you'll have to remember that for this first day, this is 75% of your 5 rep max. And then for your lighter days, these reps of 10, that's 65% of your 5 rep max. So you have to remember that. But again, I really recommend doing the Excel. Then you could just do it all on the spot. You can plug in your RPEs, which I'll talk about in a second here, and it just makes things a lot easier. So let's just put in a bunch of random numbers. Let's just say your 5 rep max for bends over rows is 200, 100, 200. Or just random stuff. Okay, whatever. So you'll see it's all mapped out here for each movement. Now, from there, you're going to do your assistance exercises, and what you'll do is come down here, and you'll pick new exercises for your assistance ones. So let's just say you want to do incline dumbbell bench press, or for your isolations, you want to do a flat dumbbell fly. Whatever you want to do. Now, I want to say too that you can do different exercises. It doesn't really necessarily matter that they're on these drop downs. You know, I've got some suggestions here, but that's all they are, suggestions. Obviously, I can't put every single movement known to mankind in there. So if there's something else you want to do, that's fine as long as it works the same muscle group. So let's just say, for instance, you wanted to do, like, say, a floor press. You can come in here, type in floor press. It's fine. It'll change all the way across automatically. Whatever you pick this week, it'll just automatically go all the way across. So you'll just do that for all your different exercises. The only thing is, for the main movements, I would like you to use one of these drop downs if you can, just because they're more compound big movements. Although if you don't have access to something or don't want to and there's something else, you know, I'll live with it. But just try to make sure it's a big compound movement. So, for abs, it's still going to be a little bit different, but actually before I get into that, let me talk about RPE, because everything's going to be based on RPE, which stands for rate of perceived exertion. So how that works is there's basically a scale, which I kind of have up here for you. So 10 would mean that that was absolute max effort, you couldn't do any more reps, or you even failed to get there. So say, for instance, you were going to do 3 sets of 8. Well, if you did a weight that you could only do 8 and you couldn't do any more reps, that would be a 10 RPE. Or if you did an 8 but it felt like you could have done 9, so you had 1 rep left in the tank, then it would be a 9 RPE. If you could have done 2 more, if you had 2 reps left in the tank, it'd be an 8. If you had 3 reps left in the tank, it'd be a 7, and so on. Pretty much we're always going to be a 7 or higher, except for potentially like these back offsets and your main movements. They might be lower, but that's okay. So hopefully that makes sense. So what you'll do on your assistance exercises, you'll just kind of work up to a weight that's roughly in this RPE range for these reps and sets. So let's just say you grabbed 50-pound dumbbells and you started working and you got up to 8 reps and it felt like you have a bunch in the tank. Okay, just keep going until you get to a spot where it feels like there's 3 reps left in the tank. Then change up the exercise weight after that. Do more weight and just try to get it there. Or if you're going and you get to like 5 reps and you're like, holy crap, I'm only going to be able to do like 3 more, just stop at a 7 RPE and just adjust the weight moving forward. So it's just something you want to kind of always keep in mind, is we want to, this RPE is more important necessarily than the actual reps itself, but we do want to get close to the sets and reps as much as possible. So you'll see that we work sub-maximally a lot, and I can kind of explain that more in the future, just because I don't want to make this video too long, which is already going to be pretty long. But a lot of people like to work up to failure all the time. They like to work really hard all the time, and they like to just push it over and over and over again, and fatigue just builds up way too fast, and you end up performing worse, and you get worse results because of it. So in the beginning, this is just to kind of get things started, and then after that, it'll kind of increase in intensity as the weeks progress. And then after this first block, then this becomes your recovery week. So you recover from the training, and then you kind of go from there. So I kind of explained that a little bit already. Now, what else? Oh, the abs. So abs, again, you can choose anything from here. It's totally fine. I actually do really recommend planks and side planks, but you can do whatever. Just because they're really good for back health. You know, that intra-abdominal kind of core stability and endurance can really help keeping your back healthy. And you mentioned that you had some back problems from squatting. This could be part of it. You know, if your abs and your intra-abdominal stabilizers and everything else can't keep up with the load that is being moved, your back has to take up a lot more than it should, and it just kind of tends to hurt people's back. It's actually something that I've had to work with in the past and still kind of work with sometimes myself. So those are good exercises, but you don't have to do them. Just kind of putting that out there. So obviously, if it's like a timed one, you can't do reps, but you can just kind of leave a little bit in the tank. So I'm not super concerned about with the ab work and keeping up with reps and all that type of stuff. I just want you to be able to do some ab work. All right. Now, regarding your back squats, I'm not saying you have to do back squats by any means. I mean, if you would rather do, say, like front squats, or you probably don't have a leg press with your home equipment. I don't remember reading that, but if you want to do something else, that's totally fine. If you want to do back squats, we'll just start super light, be super conservative, and send me video, all right? That's one of the things that comes with my training. You can send me video anytime you want, and we can look at things and try to make sure that you're working safely and efficiently. You know, I know the big three very well, being a power lifter, so I know the mechanics very well, and everybody's body will work a little bit different based on the levers that you have. So if you want to do them, but for sure do, and then just send me some videos. Video from the direct side is the best, and then for a front angle would be good too, and then we can kind of work on getting that dialed in. But like I said, you don't have to do back squats. Let's see. I think that's pretty much it for training. But yeah, that's all I have for training. So for nutrition, what I want you to do this week, I have some of this stuff typed out, but this week's gonna be a little bit different. Since you haven't been tracking, what I would like you to do this week is just eat normally. Eat like you've been eating, eat exactly the same, and just track everything. And then that will kind of give me a better idea of where you're at and where I want to go from there. You know, you have a fairly long history of dieting, which, you know, that kind of does a lot to your metabolism and makes things run a little bit slower than we typically would like. So I just kind of want to see what kind of a direction I want to go with you, because a lot of times in this scenario, what you want to do for a while is kind of reverse diet and kind of get that metabolic rate working better. But that doesn't necessarily mean it has to happen. So I want to get an idea of where you're at now, so that I can make a better decision in terms of where to go with your macros from there. So just track like normal, or excuse me, just eat like normal, track everything, track your weight every single morning, and then we'll just kind of go from there. So just, it's really important that you be honest and do things like you normally would, and don't change anything just because you're tracking. You know, I'm not going to judge you. There's no judgment in this whatsoever. It's just to get a gauge, and the more accurate you are with how things have been going, you know, the better I'm going to be able to help you. So it's best for you, it's best for me, it's best for everybody if you just be really super open and honest about it. So what you'll just do every single day is, at the end of the day, you'll track your protein, carbs, and fat, and actually check your fiber too this week too. But you can just plug it right in here. So say for tomorrow you ate 150 grams of protein, 200 grams of carbs, and say, you know, 8 grams of fat, whatever it is. You know, just type it in there. And then as the week goes on, excuse me, and then say 20 grams of fiber. So then from there, you know, whatever you do that day, just type it in there, and it'll give me an average by the end of the week, and we'll just kind of see how that goes, where your weight's going with it, and kind of go from there. And at the end of the week, you're going to do some like kind of rating system. So from 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best, you'll type it in here. So 3 would just mean everything's normal. 3 is kind of like the normal goal, right? So if it's higher, then you'd go 5 or a 4 or a 2 or 1 for lower. The only one being different is hunger. 1 means you were super hungry. 3 would be you weren't hungry or full. You were just kind of normal, kind of where you'd want to be. And then a 5 would mean you're super full, didn't even want to eat because you were just so full and just it was too hard to eat. All right, so just kind of keep that in mind. Then we got a tab for measurements, but we'll talk about all that in the email, so I won't go too much farther into this just because I don't want to be redundant. All right, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, you know, moving forward, after I have things, I will give you your targets in here for your macros, and then it'll actually give you, so let's just say, for instance, I was going to have you try to eat 2,200 calories a day. You can see here, so your average was 2165, you're 35 off, all right? But we'll talk more about that later. All right, so I think that's pretty much it. Make sure. Oh, one other thing with your training, I am having you do 20 minutes of cardio right now. I don't care what day you get it done. You can do it at the end of a session if you want. You can do it on a separate day if you want. But just kind of get 20 minutes of just kind of a moderate cardio of your choice. It doesn't matter what it is. And, you know, just kind of gets a little bit of movement. Nothing too extreme by any means. And we'll kind of go from there. So just type in whatever you do for the week here. So if you did 10 minutes of cardio, put it in there. If it was 30, 20, just type it in there, and I'm good to go. All right. I've rambled on long enough, so that's all I got. Let me know if you have any questions, and thanks. I'm looking forward to working with you.